Welcome to the PDQ demo video. Let me start by launching PDQ. This pop-up will disappear once you purchase a license, and it means that you'll get a crosshair printed across your image and a demo text over it until you purchase a license. There's 3 different ways of adding images to our queue. We can use the add feature. Simply use the browser to go to the file we want to print or multiple files. Select them and say load files, and then they are loaded into the queue. And the second way is to use the drag and drop method. So you can simply say I want this image to be printed and it will be dragged on there. The third option is to use the browse function, which will open up a media window and show your Aperture collections and your iPhoto collections. So I have a samples folder in here, and I can simply say, okay, I want this image from this folder, and I want some from Aperture as well. So let me go into the samples here, and I'll add this one from here, and I'll add this one. Now, as you can see, we have one row of images printed next to each other, saving all this media compared to printing it with the regular printer. So we call this feature nesting. There are some other things you can do with PDQ. Say I wanted this image to be printed in a different size. I can simply click on its width or height and change it to whatever I want it to be. You can still see the resolution here, so you can see if you're not going too far by scaling it up. If it's more efficient to rotate an image, you can do so. And you can change the order of images. So if I were to print this one next to that one, it would just change around. Then I could rotate this one and save some more media, and I can do the same with this one and rotate that image as well. And now you see that I've used only 75 centimeters of media, whereas I would have used meters if I were to print it without using PDQ. Some more functions. Duplicate. Say I want more versions of this picture. I can simply say duplicate. It brings on the next copy, same image now with the same settings. But what I can do here is I can change, for instance, the size to a bigger size. Let me make it really big, 100 centimeters. And you can see it's just enlarged now. Would be a fairly low resolution to print, but it's just for demo purposes. Now, we are using 60-inch width here because this printer is a 60-inch printer. If we don't have a 60-inch printer, we can just switch to a different printer. Close this window, for instance, to a 3200, which is only 42-inch. So the roll is now, or 44-inch, so it's now modified to 44-inch. If I don't have a 44-inch media, but only a 36-inch media, for instance, I can simply switch to 36-inch, and it will adjust. What you see now is that this one is actually bigger than my media. It's 1000 millimeters, and my roll is only 914. That's why it's highlighted red and it's got an exclamation mark. So what I can do here is I can either scale the image down, rotate it, or I can crop it. And cropping it would mean I can go into the crop window and just make her slightly smaller, like this, and now it actually would fit. So I can easily make it in any way I want. You can see that if the roll gets longer than my screen, you can scroll it with just using your mouse scroll button. One more thing I can do is if I want to print something and mount it on canvas, then this one would be hard because I have no white space here and I'd lose too much of her image. So what I can do here is go into the crop feature again, and instead of taking it this way, I can take it that way, and I can add, for instance, this amount of white to it. You can keep it square if you want, or you can go out of proportion, doesn't matter, whatever you like. And if I'm happy with it, I say OK. And then the white space is actually added to the image. You can see it's got more white space now. Of course, if I don't want to print a certain image, I can simply select it and I can say delete, and it's out of the queue. To make it fully optimizing your media, you can play around with images, rotate them, and just see how much of media you're using. Because, for instance, this one would fit here, rotate it. So I click on it and I rotate it, and you can see it's now moved to the next page, and the same goes for that one. This one could fit here, so if I drag the order to be next to that one, I can move it here, and I've again saved media. So now I'm using only 1.66 meters. Once I'm done with all settings, I can start the queue, but before I do that, I will show you which features you have for printing. You have the option to set your print quality here with a slider. You can decide if you want to cut it after printing. Set an S space in between. It's now 10 millimeters. If I make that 5, you will simply see the images move closer to another. You can have cut marks printed, and the cut marks will actually be visible once you've cut one of them, so you can cut the entire images so you have cut marks on the inside corner, not the outside corner. Another thing you can do is select the language. You can go to Dutch if you like, and you can go to imperial units, so into feet and inches rather than millimeters and meters. Last few options is print a file name. You can have the file name printed in the lower left corner of your image. It's easy for Canvas if you want to mount them and see the name so you know which image is which. And last two are account ID. It's a specific ID you can use for the job. And PDF DPI is a resolution in which it will render PDF files. So it actually supports PDF files. I'll briefly show you that by going into my folder here, going back one. Here's PDFs. And for instance, this is a PDF with lots of pages. And if I drop it on there, it will be interpreted. And when it's done, you can actually see all the pages of the PDF nested onto my paper, saving me lots of paper. So when I'm finally done, I say start. It will ask me if I want to start printing, and it will then print by row. So this is the first row. And once it's processed, it will move to the second, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth, etc. And when it's done, it will give you a short beep, and actually all the files will now be in our drivers. And if I move down here, I can see that I have now 8 queues here, and this is, for instance, this big image here. If I double click it, I can see it's being printed, and it's got the demo text over it. So this is how you use PDQ and its features, and as you can see, it will save you lots of time setting up your print queues, will save you lots of media, and it just makes printing very much more predictable than it ever was.